The road was filled with fallen men. Nearly 5,000 soldiers were killed or wounded there alone. But the battle wasn't over. But Kennedy feared that either action could trigger a nuclear conflict with the Soviet Union. Instead, he announced a naval quarantine around Cuba. American warships formed a blockade, preventing Soviet ships from delivering additional weapons to the island. Meanwhile, nuclear forces on both sides were placed on high alert. Across the United States, families watched television broadcasts with growing anxiety. Many Americans began building backyard fallout shelters. Schools practiced duck and cover drills. No one knew whether the next sunrise would bring nuclear war. At sea, Soviet cargo ships approached the American blockade line. For a tense moment, the world held its breath. Then something remarkable happened. Several Soviet ships slowed and turned around. Behind the scenes, secret negotiations were unfolding between Kennedy and Khrushchev. Messages were sent through diplomatic channels, sometimes hours apart, each word carefully chosen. Finally, an agreement emerged. The Soviet Union would remove its nuclear missiles from Cuba. In exchange, the United States promised not to invade the island. Secretly, the U.S. also agreed to remove its own nuclear missiles from Turkey. The crisis ended. The missiles were dismantled and shipped back to the Soviet Union. The world had come closer to nuclear war than ever before and survived. Yet the story did not end there. For decades afterward, Cuba remained a symbol of Cold War tension. Castro ruled the island for nearly 50 years. American embargoes isolated the country economically. Thousands of Cuban refugees fled to Florida, creating vibrant communities in cities like Miami. Historians later revealed astonishing details about how close the world had come to catastrophe during the crisis. Unknown to U.S. leaders at the time, Soviet commanders in Cuba already possessed tactical nuclear weapons. Some had authorization to use them if an invasion occurred. If American forces had attacked the island, nuclear war might have begun within hours. Instead, a combination of caution, diplomacy, and luck prevented disaster. The Cuban Missile Crisis reshaped how the United States and the Soviet Union handled conflict. Soon after, the two superpowers established the famous hotline communication link between Washington and Moscow, ensuring that future leaders could speak directly during emergencies. It also changed how Americans viewed the Cold War. For many citizens, the crisis revealed that the rivalry between superpowers was not an abstract geopolitical game. It was a real danger that could destroy the world. And it all began with a small band of rebels hiding in the mountains of Cuba. Today, decades later, historians still study the events surrounding Castro's revolution and the missile crisis. Documents continue to emerge from archives in both the United States and Russia. Each new revelation shows just how fragile the world once was. A misinterpreted radar signal, a nervous submarine commander, a single misunderstood order. Any of these could have triggered a chain reaction leading to nuclear war. Yet the crisis also demonstrated something remarkable about human decision-making under pressure. In the most dangerous moment of the Cold War, leaders on both sides ultimately stepped back from the edge. The world survived not because the weapons were weak, but because the people controlling them hesitated long enough to choose a different path. And that choice may have saved millions of lives. Even today, the story feels almost unbelievable. A failed revolution, a secret invasion, nuclear missiles hidden in the Caribbean, and a 13-day standoff that nearly ended civilization. History, it turns out, often changes not in decades but in moments.